Welcome to Beyond the Box.
Our guests are insiders that are now out and on our side, dropping nuclear intel and breaking it down just for you.
And now it's time to introduce our hosts, Brenda Lankridge and Suzanne Haunt. Join us and subscribe for weekly shows. Beyond the Box begins now. Let's jump in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Box.
Hey.
We have a great guest tonight. We've got Tony Rodriguez with us. We will have a full panel tonight also. So that'll be great. And we are going to talk about some really good stuff. Susie, how's your day?
Been good.
How's your eye doing after you got beamed by the bug? Susie took a bug to the face today on the four-wheeler.
Yeah, it was my son just got done saying I had to get these goggles that he had, keep the dust out of my eyes. And he takes off, and then I go down another path, and then this big, I think it was black, I don't know. It hit me so dang hard in the eyeball, and I had tears coming out my eyes.
I don't know. It hit me so dang hard. That was funny. I know, right? Did you not hear me say, I
think I need a windshield.
Turn my phone down. Now, so far, I'm going to tell you, Rumble's not playing. It's the opening thing over and over and over again. I do not even know what's going on. I'm telling you, I'm going to have to fight with these people. That's all there is to it.
You'll get it. Okay, so Brenda, we have Tony Rodriguez, which I love Tony. Oh my gosh. Tony,
yes.
Tony's just fabulous, and his story is just out of this world. Yes. literally.
Yes.
And
we have that clip, and we can play that before he comes out to let everybody know.
Yeah, we'll play that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because that'll be kind of cool. Hello,
yeah, because
Sharon.
years ago I saw that movie Jumanji, Brenda, and I saw in the movie they had it was like the 20 and back. In the movie, the kid gets stuck in the game for 20 years, and he comes back and he's only been gone for 20 minutes, so I think that that movie portrays a lot of what happened to Tony and his story, because his story is so fabulous. I mean, it's not really fabulous, but it is fabulous because I had my own UFO encounter in Austin, so I can understand the UFO thing. And people who haven't had encounters with UFOs, it's like anything. If you haven't seen an angel, or you haven't seen a devil, or you haven't seen a miracle, if you haven't talked to God, or God hasn't talked to you audibly, or you haven't seen a UFO, then you're skeptical of, or you don't believe. But Jesus said, blessed are you who believe without seeing these things. So,
yes.
People give their testimonies. Go ahead, Brenda.
Let me go ahead and do this so we can get everybody out here. So, like I said, this is a trailer from Jumanji: The Next Level. I'm going to give credit to Sony Pictures Entertainment, for a good trailer. So here we will go ahead and start that. Oh.
You're still talking to your friends.
It's complicated.
Many a tear has to fall.
When we first got together,
But it's all
we were different people.
in the game. All in the wonderful game.
Joy.
Grandpa Eddie?
Anthony.
This is Martha and Bethany. This is Spencer's grandfather.
Nice to meet Good morning. Sorry to barge in on you. You're not barging. He's barging. Milo Walker. Did you guys see Spencer? Boom.
I think he went back in. We gotta go get him.
Are you out of your mind? We haven't even picked our guys yet.
Oh, I hate this part.
Zap. You hear something? Huh?
Spencer.
Huh?
What?
Who are you?
Oh my god, you're Spencer's grandfather.
Blom. Are we in Florida?
And you.
Milo Walker. Blom. Did I die turning into some kind of small muscular Boy Scout? Are we dead? Blom.
Bethany.
No.
Fridge.
Blom. I'm the old fat dude. This can't be happening. My hip sure feels good now. Look at my thighs. Look at your thighs. Look at my thighs.
Okay, we have some issues here. The game is busted.
So is the game. I'm not it. I don't want to be it. Welcome to Jumanji. This next adventure is even more challenging. And remember, the future of Jumanji is in your hands. I have one important question. Who is Jumanji? Is that Barbara's boy? We're gonna die. We did die. Are we in hell? I knew it.
Oh my god.
This is a whole new thing. Pal, you got to have eyes in the back of your head. What in the Sam Hill? What the hell is this?
It's your strengths and weaknesses.
Smoldering intensity. It's the stupid face you made. What's going on? You having a heart attack? Breathe. His whole left side is shutting down.
That was pretty good.
Are we in hell? You know, oh my gosh, right?
All right, well, let's go ahead and bring everybody out. We have Mr. Andy. Hi, Andy.
Hey.
And we've got Tony with us. Hey,
Hi,
Tony,
guys.
you can hear us now? Everything's good?
I can hear you.
Hey,
Can you
Tony.
hear me good?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, cool. Hello.
So
Thanks for having me.
Was that clip like of the ice wall? I'm just asking for a friend.
Is the clip what?
From like is it of like where the ice wall is? I'm just asking for a friend.
No,
Oh.
weird. It's got an upload happening here.
Well, that's always great when that happens.
It says there's an upload in progress, 90% going on.
On your end?
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh. So it
Strange.
decided to do an upload during the show.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, well,
Um,
it happens.
Okay. Anyhow, hi.
Hi. How are you?
That's an interesting thing. There's a few things in Hollywood that portray the remnants of a 20 and back, or even the beginning of one. So there's a
Right.
bunch of clips in movies and in just media that kind of portray stuff. The scene that always stood out to me was at the end of Back to the Future. You remember that when Marty woke up
Yep.
he went back to the future. He was in the 50s. He was 30 years in the past and met his mom and did all that. And then at the end of it, he got back in time and he woke up and thought it was a dream for the first few minutes. He was back in his room and he was like, oh, what is this? He'd been gone for so long. He had amnesia. And then he walked outside in his living room and everything was okay. Remember, his dad
Right.
was an author and like everything was happy. It wasn't the same. That was the
Yep.
same feeling it was waking up after a 20 and back, was being gone. Felt like you've been gone for a long time. Mom, Dad. And I was so happy to, and it's like, it's portraying that phenomenon,
Right.
which is what they're doing. And then the other thing is, like in a lot of sci-fi, there's, we need you to be good soldiers. And then there was a Star Wars where they showed the kids at the very closing scene were little kids. And they were like, the Rebel Alliance needs you to help out. So for little kids, if they got abducted and were in ETs, they would say, we need your help. They were already planting the seed for them to say, yes, sure, I'll help out. Like to make it look like they were heroes. So there's a lot of little tidbits in Hollywood for sure.
Oh yeah. I think that, well, I with what I've learned, I think that every movie out there speaks something of everything that's true. It's amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
well, what did
it may be possible that some of the people that did that movie maybe had those experiences too, Tony.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So they're definitely in on the inside. So Hollywood all across the board is involved. So the actors might not know, the directors might not know, but the special effects people know. We're
Oh
seeing
yeah,
special effects that are exactly, the story is kind of dovetailed in, but not really. And then they make special effects that look exactly how it was.
right.
I
I
know a
know
lot
that.
of the people, the CIA sold a lot of information, to the Hollywood producers, and then they produced a lot of movies. And so that's been a common theme, amongst a lot of movies that were made based on some real events and then they made it like a movie.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Well, I know the
Yeah.
last time that you were with us, and it's been a while. I know you're a busy man. I mean, every time I turned around, you were off on something, and I was like, "Oh, well, shucky darns, missed him again." Um,
Thank you. Yeah.
but we were talking about like what was it? Saturn, I think. Was it no Mars?
Yes.
Mars. We were talking about Mars. So, um, I don't know, for people that might not know about your story. Do you want to tell everybody just a little bit about yourself, and you know, we can talk about what's shaking.
So yeah, we were already talking about the 20 and back, I guess, without context for
Yeah,
people.
that's all right.
The 20 and back is a phenomenon. There've been a lot of other people that have been witnesses, and when I look back into my memories and retrace everything, that seems to be the most logical explanation for what happened to me. There've been other credible witnesses that have come forward. There's a lot of overlapping testimonies, but basically, I was taken, as an ET abduction, and I lived for 20 years in the programs, in black programs, and in the secret space program, which is an infrastructure in the solar system and beyond, where humans from Earth are set up colonies and bases throughout the solar system and are doing business and trading with ETs and other places, and they have deep interstellar flight. And then at the end of 20 years, I was either age regressed or consciousness transferred back into my original self and put back. And so I was taken on April 15th, 1982, and woke up April 16th, 1982, the next day, and I was a different person, and I felt like I'd been gone for 20 years. So that's the net effect of what happened. In 2015, the end of April of 2015, I got an MRI scan of my head. I was having headaches, and my doctor got me an MRI scan. About 10 days later, in May of 2015, all the memories came back. So I had my memories deleted, and they all came back. And I started to check out places I remembered. I had memories of living in places in the world that I'd never heard of before. And when I went on Google and found out that the places were real, and I knew my way around them quite well, I reached out to researchers. And I was the first one to say that submarines were converted into spacecraft in the, back in the 40s and 50s, that governments, when they acquired the technology from extraterrestrials for anti-gravity craft, that they had converted submarines because they were built good enough. And I remembered working on one. So I was the first one that did that. And a researcher confirmed it later through other independent sources that had no idea of my testimony. So it was overlap immediately. And that got me put on the first shows. And then, it's an ongoing thing. I've always remembered little details more. You remember the really emotional things. But I wrote my book. So I did a bunch of interviews, YouTube interviews, maybe 300 or 400. And then right around 2019, 2020, they disappeared. We got the great canceling. YouTube started being hawkish. And so that
Right.
really got me. I had a bit of my book done, roughed out, and it really motivated me to finish my book, Series Colony Cavalier. Then that was released, I think, January 2020, maybe 2021, January 21. I released Series Colony Cavalier, and it was a bestseller for 3 months, I think. and went on to do good. And then I followed up with questions, spiritual side of it in Project Star Maker the following year, 2022. And then in 2023, I released Beyond Sight after I visited Inyokern, California, one of the places that I remember being at. I actually physically went there and found a bunch of evidence, and then went home and researched and found a paper trail around the program I was in. And that's the substance of my third book, Beyond Sight. So I hope that helped.
Yeah.
Maybe that got it out of the way. I don't know.
That was really good. So,
Tony, I was going to say, a lot of people who are Christians, they have like problems with like the UFO stories, but thinking of it is the Bible is full of stories about a wheel within a wheel and a ship coming down over Jerusalem, and it's also got multiple stories about time travel, where time was set, where they went back in time, and then another time when Joshua was fighting a battle, the sun stood still for a day and time stopped for a day. So there's references within the Bible for the Christians about time going backwards, going forward, stopping, and ships and these things. So, it shouldn't be such a shock. It shouldn't affect them, but for the people. But it's just if they hadn't seen it, they don't understand it. Which I've seen. I had a UFO come over my head, and I have a feeling it was actually my ship. Like I telepathy called it, and it came, and then I sent it off. But I had a vision one day, and I saw all the dials and around, like I knew how to fly the ship. So I think I don't know where it happened or how it happened, but I believe that I actually had my own ship, and maybe it's out there somewhere in the sky. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, to touch on it, so I've known people that have told me point blank, if aliens were real, they'd be in the Bible. But the book of Ezekiel is an abduction account, literally the book of Ezekiel. Like a lot of people that believe that the Bible excludes extraterrestrial life. I mean, by definition, what are the angels? They're beings that live in the heavens, that come down from the heavens. Like by definition, an extraterrestrial being. So they're all over the Bible, and there's a lot of. The other thing is, some Christians will fight me over it and say the Bible's verbatim as is, and we have a lot of proof that the Bible was rewritten from its original text. A lot of things were deleted from the Bible. The Vatican deleted something like 4 books or something from the Bible.
Oh, a whole lot more than that, like 13, I think. Yeah,
it's 16 or something. I don't know. But we know that the Vatican deleted literature from the Bible. The Bible is also called the Divine Library by certain fraternities, like Masons refer to it as the Divine Library. So it's not one story; it's a collection of stories, and many of them have been rewritten and deleted. And so that's not up for debate. That actually happened. But the other thing about Christians, I think what we're getting is a real disinfo nowadays that anything extraterrestrial is a demon. So it's one thing to not believe in them, it's one thing to be a faithful Christian and believe in what you're being taught at your local church or what you're doing in your Bible study. Believe the Bible. It's a whole nother thing to assign demonology to everything, to literally everything. When we think about the other thing is we have disclosure. So they came out and told us that the United States has no idea what these crafts are that can go 40,000 miles an hour in a second. From 0 to 20,000 miles an hour, they've observed them going from in the water, in the sea. So transmedium craft that can go underwater very quickly, come out and go into space in a minute and back again. They've admitted that, and they know that there's nothing that we have that produces that kind of energy that can perform like that. Plus, make right angle turns. They've admitted this. We have admission of technology that people have been reporting associated with UFOs for the better part of 75 years, something like that. So this is not. We're no longer speculating. So this is true.
Right.
And then but anyhow, back to the demonology thing, it just seems odd to me. So a good friend of mine, a classmate I grew up with on Facebook, said, I posted about UFOs, and she said they're demons, Tony, and she's a very devout Christian. She believes the earth is only 6,000 years old, like the verbatim as the Bible, and it's her choice. but the sheer scope of the universe, the Vatican has its own astronomy department. You can go to local astronomy clubs, and with parallax, you can prove the Earth is not flat. It's not a dome. Something called astronomical parallax. And then there's stellar drift that you can chart with a very small telescope if you just learn the math. And so the amount of worlds that must be out there, because we have confirmation of exoplanets. So nowadays we have the confirmation of so many worlds that I don't think it's possible that out of the 400 billion stars in our galaxy and the 400 billion galaxies, could be trillions instead of billions, that they're all demons. So it just doesn't make sense. And also, to quote the Bible, my father's house is my father lives in heaven, and his house is like a mansion, and in his mansion there are many rooms. And there. So anyway.
True. Yeah.
The original Bible was a collection of stories that were
it is.
Hang on, Susie.
You're right. It's so complicated. Go ahead.
What was that, Tony, about the original Bible?
The original Bible is a collection of stories. They're individual stories, and it's in Hebrew, and it was translated in Constantinople, right? So the Nicene Creed was when they gathered those all up. And
the Constantinople, yeah. The Romans needed to dominate, to make a one world religion and one world government. So that was the Council of Nicaea, and the Constantines, from Istanbul. It was Constantinople, but it's Istanbul today. But they literally made religion what it is. They made it up, and they rewrote the books, and they changed. There was some older documents, and they've been manipulated and changed. And then you have the Mandela effect, where you have stories in the Bible today that say in one book that Solomon had like 4,000 stalls, and another book in the same Bible said he had 40,000 stalls. So if the Bible is accurate, then the Bible is lying, because it has two different books with two different stories, and you can't have that and be a truthful book.
Now, I'll tell you,
that's a fact.
I have acquired the Ethiopian Bible, the Geneva Bible, the Book of Enoch, and I have a regular Bible. And what I've been doing is I've been going through these things, and you definitely can tell the difference. And in the Ethiopian Bible and the Geneva Bible and all of them, they do talk about extraterrestrials and stuff like that. So yes.
Yeah. Couple things. The Nicene Creed, so it's my understanding that it was only a few hundred years after Christ, like 180 years, something like that. But what happened was, because everybody was spread apart and there wasn't a lot of communication, people interpreted the story of Christ in different ways, and villages were fighting with other villages, and there were actually mass murders happening all over. And it was out of a state of emergency that they called together, the Romans called together all of the priests that they could get a hold of to have the Nicene, whatever that was, the Nicene gathering, and agree on the story, because villages independently were fighting over the story of Christ, and thousands of people were dying. There was violence about it, and so they created the Nicene Creed. Then they had that version that came out, and eventually that was taken and turned into the King James version. So a lot got chopped, and then the King James, a lot got chopped, and it went into English. So we have that. The other thing about extraterrestrials, so I was abducted when I was 10 years old. I woke up with a gray extraterrestrial in my bedroom, and I touched it, and it was not human, and it was smart, and where it was telepathic communication. The first 30 minutes.
When you say, Tony, you said it wasn't human, what do you mean? What was it? I mean, like,
it was a gray. It looked like a gray, like the description of the grays. It was a tall, skinny.
Well, do you think it had a human soul? Like, they say that the grays are us in the future. So do you think it was like, it was human within that body, or?
I don't believe we're the grays are us in the future, one for one bit.
Okay.
That's a flat out lie.
What do you think?
They're extraterrestrials. So they're part of a group of thousands of species that have grouped together that dominate our region of space. And so, anyhow, I grew up with them. I just want to lead into back to the religious part of it, because I always remembered the first 30 minutes. They deleted the 20 years. I went back. I woke up the next morning and had no memory of what happened. And about a month later, the memories of the abduction happened. I always remembered that first bit. And for the rest of my life, I was looking for confirmation of what I actually remembered. It was a very strong, very clear memory that I was in the room with extraterrestrials at one point. When I was 19 till I was about 25, I read every bit of religious text that I could get. I read the Bible cover to cover 7 or 8 times. I read the Torah. I read the Quran. I read the 19 Keys, the Satanic Bible.
Me too.
I was looking for confirmation of what I physically saw with my own 2 eyes. The only place I saw any mention, a public mention of extraterrestrial life was in the Chan Buddha. So the sand mandala is a map of the universe, not just the world. And they had extra life on other planets. The Chan Buddha, I think 800 AD was when they wrote those texts. In the year 800, the Chan Buddha were admitting life on other worlds. Like that was the only religious text I found that had that. Other than, like I said, the Book of Ezekiel, even the Book of Solomon can be. I haven't read the Talmud. I don't believe. I might have skipped through highlights of it online or something, but other than that, the Book of Solomon has other life forms, demons, extra dimensionals, basically, in the Book of Solomon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, a little tangent. We're not talking about.
So this book that you read, what kind of stuff did you remember that was in it that was important?
Well, as far as the Chan Buddha goes, there are thousands of versions of Buddhism, and this one just said that there are other worlds that are inhabited by other people. That was what it said. So it was the only one that admitted that the Earth wasn't the only thing that exists. So the rest of them kind of paint us in that picture.
So I think you'll like this. Because I've studied, I read the Bible 7 times, and I read all these. I studied the Hebrew roots and the Jewish and all this stuff. I did all this same things. I went down all those roads looking for answers for everything. There is one. I think it was. I think it's the Gospel of Barnabas. I'm not really sure. But also in the book of Judas, I don't know if that document, the book of the Gospel of Judas, but in the Gospel of Barnabas, it talks about Jesus is talking to the disciples, and he calls them all demons, every one of them, and he says, in the future, you're going to be the priest, and you're going to be the priest who molests the kids, and you're going to be the priest who is, taking people's money and getting rich, and you're going to be those bad guys in the religion. He tells them that's who you're going to be in the future, and he has nothing good to say about them, but he says in that book that I am going to a holier and a better generation, one that you don't even know about, one that you'll never. And he talks about another generation, another people that he is going to go visit. And so I thought you might like that. I can get that, and I'll find that, and I'll send that to you, because that talks about another generation of people that he goes to visit,
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyhow, that covers it. It's a sticky conversation to get into religious talk, but and because some people believe it, and I believe this. Like anybody watching right now that's just furious that we're saying this stuff. Like I believe that your spirituality is yours, and your individual belief. If you're called to believe something, you should go ahead and do it. I believe in freedom of religion to believe what you want. I have my testimony. You don't have to believe it. I put it out there for people that are curious. I don't go around shouting off the rooftops what happened to me, but the truth is that happened to me. So we have to live in a world that allows for that phenomenon and that a level of technology to be interacting with human beings. We live in that world. That's the world we really live in, and it's a tough pill to swallow. But I don't blame anybody for not believing it or saying, you could believe what you want. It's important. It's important for in your own individual health to do the things that you're called to do and believe the things that you're called to believe. So it's not for everybody to come down the rabbit hole of the space program.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. And we talk about that often, about how you don't have to go to church to be able to pray to the Father. You don't have to, we talk about that all the time.
I've seen
And it's our own journey,
time travel.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I went and I purchased all these so that I can study and reference the difference in all, which helps with research and where people are always looking for the truth. But you're right. If it's true to you and you feel that that's true, hey, take it and run with it. So, but I am curious to hear about different places that you've been, you know.
Right?
During
Huh?
my time there, right?
Yeah.
So, when I woke up, so they took, I was in a room with extraterrestrials, and they said, "We want to borrow your consciousness for 20 years," and sold it to me. Excuse me. I agreed, and then they did a procedure on me, and I woke up in a portable in Inyo Kern, California. And I went there and found that place. There's a show about it that we did. And I actually went back physically to the exact place, and that was a lot of evidence. I found the buildings that I remembered and documented it. I was there for about 9 months going through that program, and then shipped off to a place called Puerto Tawantinsuyo, Peru, in the Madre de Dios region, the Amazon, in the jungle, river town in the jungle. The Madre de Dios River was going through there, is that region. And it's a town was called Puerto Tawantinsuyo. And I was shipped off there, and they were shipping cocaine on an air cargo plane from there to Santa Marta, Colombia, once a month. And they were drugging me. And while I was under, I would tell them, if the coast was clear. So it was a psychic. I was a remote viewer, field operational in 1983. And I was there for 2 summers. 1985, I went back they shipped me out. I lost the ability. I became not proficient in what I was doing. And so they shipped me back to Seattle to the person that owned me, which I found. I went back to that house. I visited there twice. I knew my way around the area, and I've documented it with witnesses. I've been there twice, and there's a lot of details that have supported me. So there's a lot of corroborating evidence there, but I don't speak about it publicly, only to researchers, because there are people still alive that may or may not be involved, that could be injured, and there could be legal repercussions. Not to mention, these people are very powerful, and if they wanted to, if I were in trouble, they wanted to, they could make my life very bad. I have children and a family to think about. So that was an entire episode. I don't mention a lot of things that happened there, but he was a practicing Satanist. There were murders that happened. There were sexual abuse that happened, and I wasn't the only one. There were 6 or 7 boys that lived there that came and went, and there were girls that lived on another house on the property. So that was those years. I spent 2 years there. When they got rid of me, they said in their exact words they were going to sell me to the military. And they shipped me off, and 2 guys in a box van picked me up. They gave me an injection. I lost consciousness, and I woke up on a craft to going to the back of the moon. And that was my intake into the secret space program. I went to the back of the moon, was trauma-based mind control program to not have fight or flight response, and then shipped off to Mars, where I was a support soldier. People call me super soldier. It's not true. It was a program to put people as minimally trained, minimally equipped to support actual soldiers. It's actual super soldiers. The term is played out. Soldiers on the ground on Mars, and for indigenous insectoids that live inside Mars. So underground, large insects that live there. And that program failed. So it was, we went out for 3 operational missions that I did personally. And we had casualties and was interacted, and they canceled the program. I waited for 4 weeks or so, doing nothing, like a lame duck. And then they shipped me to a larger city that's underground on Mars, inside Mars. A larger city with domes, and it looked like very, very plush, very modern and fancy architecture. I had my own room. I had, bath, like an apartment, like a studio apartment. And I was retrained with a tall white in a school, in a electronic computer, like an electronic school that was adaptive, like an AI teacher. And I was retrained. They gave me aptitude tests to see what I'd be good at. And I landed on skilled labor, which was ship maintenance. And then I was shipped off, sold to the Ceres Colony Corporation. and moved there to the planetoid Ceres, which is in between Mars and the asteroid belt. It's a small dwarf planet. And inside there was a breakaway colony established from people from Europe, the Deutsch culture of Europe, the Germans. People want to call them Nazis. They didn't identify as Nazis. They were identified as Deutsch. And there were about 250,000 people living in there, men, women, and children, and 2 other species of ETs that lived there and did business, and then many other species that came and went and visited. So it was open to species visiting. I was there and I worked on a converted submarine. It was the inside of an old World War II looking submarine, and I did maintenance on that ship for about 8 years. While I was doing that, there was no window. I was down in the lower decks. A computer told me my job, what I was going to do, and I did it. I did maintenance. It was boring, and it was very kind of a miserable job. There was no window. I had no idea that we were even moving. I would take a train from where the barracks where I woke up in the morning, take a train there, get out in the hangar, go onto the ship. They'd close the door. We'd stay in there for 8 hours, do what the computer told us. The door would open again. So the ship was flying. I had no idea that it was moving. That was about 8 years. They decommissioned that ship, and I got a promotion to cargo engineer. I got retrained, went to school, and it was a modern ship. And by modern, I mean it was a much more advanced craft, like a genuine spaceship. And because I was cargo engineer, I could look out the window. I could go to mission briefings, and I got a small paycheck to let me access the rest of the colony. I could afford a train ticket and go out and visit areas in the colony. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I'd say three years that I was up there. And at the end of it, in 20 years. So during that time, to answer your question, Bree, sorry, it took me this long to get back to it. During that time, we went to many planets. We went to 4 or 5 planets a day. We went to a facility in the Kuiper Belt, like a large dwarf planet sized, or a large chunk of ice, basically glorified chunk of ice that they hollowed out, and was a massive warehouse that we would drop off cargo, like a storage facility. And then we would go to Earth. We would go to Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean and pick up cargo. We'd go to a place underground in the Catarina Mountains. We would interact with species or cultures that live inside the Earth that were advanced, way more advanced than us. And we would drop off cargo for them and take cargo for them, because we were like a middleman. So when they wanted to trade with somebody that they didn't have a relationship with, they hired us to do it. So it would be like an embargo between China and Britain, but they still traded by using a third party. So that was really what was going on.
Now let me ask you. You said that you went places where there was, men, women, and children, and then other races, species. Did they get along? I mean, did they communicate with each other? What is the issue here?
What do you mean?
Well, if they are out there in the open doing work and everything else and communicating with each other, here where we're at now, they're not. I mean, if they're walking around, they're disguised. Okay. So why is it a problem for them to be in their natural forms, talls, grays, what have you, here on this planet?
So there's a treaty about planet Earth, about Earth. So there's a treaty. Extraterrestrials can't come here without special, like a permit. And because we're a species that is unaware or kept in the dark, we're at a certain level by our owners that are trading. So we are a resource. Basically, because we're unaware of what's going on, officially unaware, we
Tony,
are still a resource.
You said our owners. Do you mean that? Okay. Are you saying that everybody has an owner or handler on this planet?
No, just
the Earth.
Okay.
No, the Earth is a jurisdiction for a group of extraterrestrials that dominate our region of space. So the Earth is in a territory. So imagine the United States has islands, territories that are islands out in the boonies, and there are animals on the island. Those animals are ours too. So other species Russia can't go to our island and just hunt our animals. They're there. They're ours. We own that territory. So the Earth is a territory that's owned by a group of extraterrestrials in this region of space.
Susie, you scared Denise. She jumped when you jumped in there and yelled Tony.
Tony, yeah, me too.
All right. It woke me up. It's like, what? Good Lord, woman.
Right.
So, and I mean, but I think nowadays it's not as bad now. There's a lot more aware now than what there was in, say, the 50s. So I think that if they just come out with it, they allow them, as long as they're not hostile, with us, I would think that we wouldn't be hostile with them. So our government sucks. That's I'm just gonna say that.
So it's really hard for me to say this, but it's really true. A lot of people don't deserve to be rub elbows with other species.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah,
So
you're true.
really, there are places where any of us in this meeting and any of us watching this meeting, there are places you can go right now. There are cities that you can go, and by walking from A to B, your life is in danger. So those people, do you want those people to represent Earth with an extraterrestrial walking around?
Oh,
Right.
that's
So
true.
so the other thing is on Ceres Colony, it was a complete police state. There was 100% surveillance. Speech was regulated. It was a very militant. It was a military state. It was a surveillance state, like a smart city. Everywhere you were on camera, and everything you did. And if they called the police, they were there immediately, and they were heavy-handed. So there was extreme policing about that on the Ceres Colony Corporation. So if an ET went there, nothing bad was going to happen to the ET, no matter how criminal the people were. So right now, the world is really kind of the Wild West. So you know what I mean? Like a lot of people. It's a bad experience to drive a 30-minute drive down the highway for all of us.
Yeah,
because of the way
I've heard that a lot of them are kind of very leery of us because there's a lot of us here that are we're mean. Okay.
Barbaric?
Some people here are mean, barbaric. Well, yeah.
So even our leaders and all of us have childhood trauma, unresolved childhood trauma. We all have a different experience of childhood that leads us to behave differently as adults, which is why we don't get along. Many species that are up there, I'm postulating this, that they have standardized the childhood experience. So if we all had the same childhood, we'd all behave the same way. But we have individual childhoods where we have a brother that picks on us. We have a neighbor down the street. Think about the horror stories that you can hear. I don't have to ask. If I sit here and have a heart-to-heart with you guys privately, it won't take me long to find something very terrible that happened to you in your childhood. And that's a standard across the board of most of humanity. Kids are witnessing things. We don't have standardized childhood. We're free-range people. And so we behave badly. Yeah. And would you go to visit an extraterrestrial planet that had a per capita murder rate of 600 out of every 100,000? Would you go to a city like that on another world and stand out as a human in a place where everybody is a reptile? Would you want to stand out in a city that had that kind of crime rate? Of course not, because you would miss it. You'd be a victim. You'd be victimized. And
I'd be eaten in 5 minutes. They'd be like, "Look, smorgasbord." But
so until we standardize the childhood experience and the crime rate and a lot of the social issues, or they do the Neuralink, or they take away a lot of our human rights and have a police state. It's not going to be an official thing. So we've already had disclosure.
And the problem with doing that is a lot of us have a problem trusting our government. That's the big thing about police stating us here. See,
that's what I meant. The government is ran by people that have trauma too. So that's what I mean. Even our leaders are very badly damaged.
Yeah. I mean, what happened to me happened to somebody. What happened to me, my childhood trauma, was somebody in the government that did what they did to me. I lived with that. I did therapy, which that didn't even help, because how do you go to a therapist and tell them what happened to you against somebody who ended up being a president? Who you going to tell? So I had to deal with it myself. But what it did for me was it made me more of a humble person. It made me understand differently and care about people who went through, sexual abuse, ritual abuse. So because I understand. Now, I know a lot of them go through anger, but I was so young that anger spell was gone. It was something that at first I was like, God, am I nuts? And then it came to terms. I came to terms with it. So it doesn't, I mean, do I get triggered when I hear that person's name? Not really, unless it's over and over and over again in the same conversation. Then it's like, ugh, I can't. But it doesn't want to make me lash out and go smack the crap out of somebody. I mean, it's doable. I mean, myself personally, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I don't think I would treat them any different than I would another human being. I'm disabled. I don't like when people make fun of disabled people because, a lot of times it's not their fault. What happened to me wasn't something that I did to myself. Andy, who I don't know what he's doing, Andy has been in a wheelchair all of his life and he's paralyzed from the waist down. That wasn't his fault. He was born like that. So I don't treat him any different either. So I wouldn't treat them any different, I don't think, unless I was threatened. And so there you have it. That's the problem. If one of us down here feels threatened by any means, then that sets it off. I've seen and been around reptilians. When I was younger, I was frightened of them. I have when they're in human form, I know because I can smell them. I don't know where this came from, but it's unique. If they're in human form, I can smell them just like when they're not. I've seen them when they haven't been. And I wasn't afraid of them. The only thing I asked was, why do they smell so bad? And somebody said, well, they live underground. And I said, they don't have showers underground? That was the only thing that I said. I wasn't afraid. I'm still not afraid. But I know that some forms of them can be very dangerous. And they like to eat people. Let's just put it out there. So.
Well, there's a lot of different versions of reptilians. Yeah,
right.
And
right.
Them who have like a urine smell to them, like a sulfury urine smell.
Yes.
But there are many different versions of them.
Right. Yeah. Now I smell the sulfurous, rotten garbage smell to me. That's what I associate it with. And but if they're not going to harm me, I'm not going to harm them. And I really wish that more people thought that way, because I'm alien curious. For real.
I think most people are. And are fine to do that. But the thing is, we also have a lot of people that victimize each other. And
that's
so,
true. That's
true. The other thing is that a lot of ET species regard us as lower than them. So you have like many of the versions of Greys are on a hive mind. So they're a singular mind. Like imagine everybody with the Neuralink that's talking telepathically, mechanically. And so they're on a hive mind like an AI, and they regard us and our individual minds as inferior. So they just see us the same way that we see chickens or dogs or cats.
Right.
So we love them. We love them, but we don't let them vote.
Yeah, right. But it's kind of true, though. And I mean, from what I've heard, they are extremely intelligent. And I really think that the human race can probably learn a lot from them, But you're right.
Well, we're
so bad.
We will when we begin to participate with them, even accessing their networks. So even our internet that can access the solar system's internet, there's networks. That will change humanity greatly. And the thing is, we don't even know they exist. There's not an official, admission that they exist. But when we start to actually access and see what goes on other planets, people will aspire to behave better.
Right.
So we're lied to and think we're at the top of the food chain. We're not.
Now,
which is back to the Bible comments.
Yeah. Now, Denise says do they sit in front of a TV and laugh at us? And she said, LOL. I mean, I would. I sit in front of the TV and laugh at us myself. So
Yeah, I don't know if they're watching us on TV or not, but there are, like I said, there is like a version of the internet that is intersolar and even extra solar. So around in nearby stars, they trade digital information, so they can watch us on the internet. They can see what's going on in our news events and what's happening. So that does happen, but a lot of it's closed off because most of our media is laden with subliminal messages.
oh yes, yes. And
Huh.
I've often heard the joke, they say when UFOs fly by, they lock their doors. Just kind of keep going. I mean, I can't say I blame them, because there is a lot of bad. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I should be somewhere else. I have a different
You
aspect of
belong.
it.
You're exactly where you belong. I believe it. So you're exactly here doing
Probably.
the job that you need to do. If you think about it, if we're going to get a disclose, like I said, they've already disclosed. So that's what I'm doing. But
Yeah.
that's the cover. I just disclosed, right? So I just said that what I went through, and then I present proof about it. So that's a disclosure. We don't want just disclosure. We want to participate.
Right.
We
Yes.
want to join the secret space program. We want to join the intergalactic society. We don't want to just learn about it. We want to participate. Right. We want just to be able to trade and access the technology and the knowledge. That's what I mean. All we need is their internet, and we can build our own stuff. So it's the knowledge that's being held from us so that people can, elites, corporate elites, government elites, whatever you want to call it, the society that's probably been ran by extraterrestrials the whole time, that have been, there's a fraternity that's basically in charge of all the world's resources. And so they have held us down so that they can maintain their advantage. And we're getting to the point where they have to disclose. So we're going to have to join the community. They're going to give us another version so that they maintain advantage. But we're getting to that point where disclosure's already happened.
Right. And I think that if some things change, big things have to change. I mean, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. And everybody could learn to trust one another and could be, how do you say it? They could be more humble and respectful to each other and get along and stop all this crazy mess. I think that it would make our chances better of being able to participate in that, for real. And I wanted to ask you, how have your conferences been that you've been to? They look like you guys are having a really good time.
Most of them are really good. The crowds that come out to the conferences are very, people that are curious about this, have lived in a lot, most people, like you said, you've seen reptilians, so you're attracted to this information. That's what the crowd is made up of. So when you go to these conferences, you really learn a lot from people you meet, people that are doing and the ufology and the truther community, along with the spiritual community, kind of overlap. It's very fragmented. So every conference I go to, I learn quite a bit. So they're very good for that, just networking with people, and you find out that you're not alone in a lot of the things you believe. Yeah. Because most of society is happily, blissfully ignorant of what's going on. Pay attention. They're just showing up and living their life and consuming, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they don't care. People that witnessed a UFO are Googling, show me a UFO. Like after a few years, you go, man, I know I saw a UFO. Right. Gotta be something. And so you end up watching a show that points you that this conference is going to be there. That's really what that crowd is about. They're all people that have witnessed something that they shouldn't have seen. And so that's what draws you to my information and other information like this. People that never had any kind of contact or never any kind of weirdness, they quickly don't believe it because, that's not real. I've never seen anything that would lead me to believe that there's an ET. You know what I'm saying? Like you're crazy because they've never personally had contact. But people that have had personal things that have said they've seen a ghost, they've seen something weirdness, they've seen one in the sky, whatever it is, those are the people that come out to these conferences. Those are the people that tune into the shows because they've seen it with their own two eyes.
I mean, I see dead people all the time. I communicate with them. I have since I was 5. I put a lot of abilities away, but that's one thing that never went away. I love when they show up in my house in the middle of the night and come through the wall and say, "Hey, am I dead?" I'm like, "Well, you don't know me. You're standing in my bedroom. You came through the wall. Chances are, yes, you are." So, and then I've seen other spirits that just hang out and do good things. And I see them in light form and like a fog form. Very rarely, but on occasions, I do see them where they look human formed. So it's amazing. So to me, things like this are not strange. They're not different. I don't doubt them. Then going through the things that I've gone through, it's like I grew up with it. I grew up with it. And I always thought, because I was always told by family, especially my mom, don't talk about that stuff. People will think you're crazy and they'll put you away. So it wasn't until I had heard some people talking about this, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Other people know about this stuff? And it kind of floored me. So I started looking into it and watching people on shows and listening to what they were saying and their testimonies. And it was like, wow, okay, so there are other people out there like this. We're not all crazy at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it enlightened me because I felt so much better when I found out that there are people out there that have had experience like that. So
even in my testimony, since I went public in 2016, like I said, I quit counting after 2,500 people that have contacted me saying that they saw me on a show, tell my story of what I went through, and they feel like they went through the same thing. And so in 8 years, 2,500 people plus, and like I said, I quit counting. But so I'm not the only one, and not everybody wants to speak about it publicly because you do get ridiculed. I've been ridiculed, like you get ridiculed when you go and say this stuff publicly on Facebook.
Sure.
And first I was trying to juggle, like on Facebook, I was trying to juggle my friends from school, and I'd put them in a list. And when I posted something, they wouldn't see it, and people that saw it, knew me, would see it. And after a while, I just quit doing it, and I lost a lot of friends. High school, a lot of people I went to school would think I'm crazy, and but it is what it is. This is what I am right now. I have my story, and I turned pro at a certain point, and this is what I do for a living. I talk about my story. I write the books, and I run remote viewing classes. I teach remote viewing, which is what I learned in the first program that I was in Annual, and so that's what I'm doing professionally now.
That's cool.
Now, let me ask you, I don't remember if I told you if you knew that this was a 2-hour show. Are you going to be able to do another hour?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. We take a 5-minute break, and we're getting ready to do that. When we come back, I would really like to talk about the remote viewing stuff. And you said you teach it. Do you teach it in a room?
On a Zoom call. Weekly meetings on Zoom. Yep.
Okay, because I think Susie and we talked about this. I leave when I go to sleep some nights, and I go places. I have finished her dreams. So somebody said, well, they think that I remote view in my sleep. I don't know how to control it. It's strange to me. And when I come back, it's like almost like I hit myself in the chest and I wake up. It's like, whew, so it's kind of strange. So I wanted to do something to learn how to control that, be able to do it when I'm awake. And Jessica Jones, I love her. Okay. And she does that. And I've had her on the show before. She knows another friend of mine. So I've known of her for a very long time and watch her shows. So, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to take that 5-minute break so people can get coffee, run and do your thing. And everybody, well, now, of course, then again, Brenda forgot to bring up the break video because, I do that because that's me. So we're going to go ahead. I know, right, Andy? We're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Everybody hang out and we will be back in 5.
said
And we are
first and second floors were filled with smoke.
Andy. What are you doing, Andy?
Sorry, I was getting the update on the house fire.
Oh, Great. Lovely.
Yeah, they just transported 2 kids.
Oh, man. I'm telling you to get out of your town. Them people's nuts.
I can't
But
help
again,
it. They blew a battery up in there.
right? So, how long, first of all, how long have you been doing remote viewing? And where'd you learn to do it?
Let me turn the volume up a little bit. Well, like I said, in 1982 and 83, that was the first place I went. So in my book, Beyond Sight, my latest book, I found the paper trail. So it was from the funding from Project Grill Flame ended in April 9th, I believe, 1982. I was abducted April 15th. And I woke up that Monday, or that Saturday, I believe, so 15th. On the 17th, I woke up in Inyokern. And I was there until December, where I was shipped off to Seattle for a short stint and then shipped off to Peru. When I got to Peru, it was January of 83. They had just got done celebrating New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I remember it, because there was a kid that had a 1982 t-shirt and the guy was making fun of him, saying that's last year's shirt. He got it cheap. And so they would make a, so that's how I know that it was right after they were cleaning up after the party, the New Year's Eve party, when I got there.
Wow.
So also during that time, Project Grow Flame was shut down. The funding ended from April 9th, 1982 until January of 83. The government sponsored remote viewing research stopped, and it had been going on since 1971. So all of a sudden in that time, and I proved it, and like I have the paperwork, it's in my book. During that time, they stopped what they had been doing for a decade, more than a decade. Then in January, so before that, Project Grill Flame was only under the jurisdiction of Army INSCOM. Army INSCOM had 7 contractors that I proved. It was the FBI Special Service, the CIA, the NSA, and a few other acronyms. But they had contractors that they were customers, so they were getting paid to give people remote viewing services or products, right? So in the time that I remember being in Inyokern and being trained to do advanced remote viewing out of body, and they were experimenting on us kids that they referred to as clones for advanced through MK Ultra, brutal trauma-based mind control, and then into the advanced remote viewing and out of body. And then precognitive, he was doing precognitive remote viewing, so trying to see what was happening tomorrow. They did all that, and I put all that in the book. But what happened was they did at the same time in Washington, Senator Claiborne Pell did a joint Senate Arms Committee inquiry into Project Grill Flame about where they were getting their personnel, because it was deemed a transfer of technology and that the Army regulations for personnel did not apply. So it was perfectly legal to run kids through there. During that time, they did a joint Senate Arms Committee, like a hearing, and at the end they determined that it had to be on a volunteer basis only. So us kids went through from April to January. They ran children through to get the most, because it's easier to. They wanted to see how far they could go with the technology, what they learned. So they did it with kids that are already natural remote viewers at a young age before puberty. It's a blank slate. The child's mind is a blank slate. You're not teaching an old dog new tricks like like a soldier.
Right.
In January of 83, they closed Project Grill Flame and they opened Project Center Lane. And then it gave jurisdiction to all the other branches of the military, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, and the CIA and the FBI. Everybody, all of a sudden, and coincidentally, strangely, Boeing.
Oh, great.
Boeing accessed the data. So Boeing, the corporation Boeing, were training remote viewers. They accessed the data and were training a team of remote viewers. So what I'm saying is Center Lane, and then Center Lane was on a volunteer basis. So you had to be a volunteer. You could get drafted. So I'm saying is the legality of what I went through was perfectly legal. I found that paperwork, and that's in my book. The other thing is that the buildings that I identified were classified as California special districts, and they're out of the jurisdiction of local law enforcement, and in fact, out of the jurisdiction of military law enforcement. It has to be congressional authority in a special district to enforce the law. So if you were going to torture little kids, 10-year-old kids in a building, it was perfectly legal. So what I
Oh,
found is
wow.
the legality and the funding receipts are all there, and they're in my book. So that's when I learned. That's where I learned how to remote view. After I got my memories back in 2015, when I moved, so 2016 till the end of 2016 and early 17, I remembered ways to do it for manifesting. And the company I was working for at the time, the owner died, and our lease was up. So 16, yeah, like October of 16, my lease was up, and I didn't have a car, didn't have money. My job, the company died. The boss died. He couldn't pay me,
Right.
and I was in bad shape. And I used the techniques that I remembered to manifest a new job, and it worked. And so I started a
Huh.
group. After a year in my Patreon, with Jackie Kenner, we kept talking about the methods of it. It's basically a meditation method that I remembered from the Enneagram, from that advanced research. And I started a group called Tier 3 on my Patreon. And we do it every week. We still do. It's been going for years now, 3-4 years. And in order to practice meditating, we started putting some items in a bucket, in a 5-gallon bucket, and remote viewing what was inside of it. And first, when we got close, we go, oh, that's kind of close. You know what I mean? It's a screwdriver. You got a long metal thing. I get it. But after a while, we got good at it. Started really, and I went, oh shit, this is working. And so I started the remote viewing groups, and really started, and then simultaneously went back to Inyokern. Tyler Koala from Journey of the Truth went with me and documented the trip to Inyokern. And when I was there and actually stood there and smelled it and felt the humidity and everything, a lot of memories came back. And I went, oh God, that's what was going on here. Like, I was in a remote viewing developmental program in the 80s, which turned
Wow.
into Project Lane, Project Stargate, Project Gateway, all those. We hear about the public versions of it, where it went on after the fact in the 90s,
Mhm.
all the way up to Men Who Stare at Goats. Like, I was before that happened. And so that's the program I was in. So when I really remember that, I really went at it hard and read all the details. I read all that I could get my hands on of the declassified library.gov, and started really applying it to what I do. And we're really good. I've trained a lot of remote viewers, and we do really good. So I invented a score system between 0 and 35. And at 15, if you score a 15 on that scale, you're beating the odds of 1 in 250,000 probability of accessing the target, the remote viewing target. And we get close to that. We get between 12 and 15 every single week. We are remote viewing every week. We get aspects of the target. Some are vague. Some people draw a picture of it. So some people are, you get your days too. You can't remote view every day of the week unless that's all you do. You're going to get your off days. And that happens. The human factor is real. But that I read and it's in my book. In Beyond Sight, there's actually a guide in the end of it on how to remote view. What you were saying, Bree, about what you're dreaming and traveling, so that's more like astral projection. It's the same thing. It's the same science. You know what I mean? Like that whole genre, what you're doing, remote viewing or traveling or precognitive or medium work, it's all the same sense. So your skin senses heat and cold and wet and dry. Your eyes can see things, light. Your ears can hear sounds. Your ESP and your heart, your kind of vagus nerve to the heart, it accesses outside of time space. So don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't kill the messenger. I'm just the messenger
Right.
here. I didn't know the rules. That's really the science that's going on. And that's so through meditation and through protocols, you can direct it in a direction that you want. So it's happened. What you described, what it sounds like, and you know more better than me, is that you're just in a highly intuitive state of mind. So when you go to sleep, you're getting into theta sleep sooner, and you're staying there, and you're in an intuitive state of mind. Everybody can do it, but there are factors. It's like a muscle. So your intuitive self. So people that remote view and begin in the beginning, they might get a few. I get a big round ball, and it's a Ferris wheel, or it's like a merry-go-round or something. They go, I just see a ball. That's all I get. The more you do it, we do it. So the way I teach remote viewing is the early stages of remote viewing, and it's wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi. And so I want people to do the early basic stages many times and develop the muscle. So your intuitive thing is a muscle. You have a strong intuitive muscle, Bree. That's what's going on. Everybody has that. Everybody touches that. Has a dream, like you say, once in a while. You are getting them all the time because that muscle, that practice for you is strong. So it's the same thing. When you meditate and go into a remote viewing, you get better at it. And so what I have it broke up into 9-week semesters, and the people that are in the second 9-week semesters consistently get better details than the people in the first 9 weeks. And it's only because they've built up that muscle. Sorry, I'm on a long rant, and I have had a lot of coffee today.
Very, very interesting.
That's like practice makes perfect,
Yeah.
Well, it's a muscle, you know what I mean? Like you can do one push-up, and then you do it every day. You can do 2. Pretty soon you're doing 5, and you can do 10. You get up to 20. But it's the way the human body works. The human mind works the exact same way.
Right. And Susie and I mean, we every once in a while we've done something really weird. Like she had a dream one night. I finished her dream, and then she had like the third one. Like it was consistent. And when we talked to each other, it was like, what? Wait, what? So yeah, we do strange things. Or I'll be sitting here thinking about Susie like I did earlier today. I wonder if she's awake yet. Look at the clock. No, she's not. And all of a sudden my phone rings, or she'll do the same thing and I'll call her. And so it's kind of weird. We're kind of in tune with each other. So, I mean, it's not really weird. It's actually
It's
nice.
not weird. I think it happens a lot. I think it happens a lot to people that are close. I think even people, like when you look at people that have been married a long time, they don't even speak to each other, and they get up and go. One of them's thinking, I want a Pepsi out of the fridge, and the other one just gets up and goes and gets it. And you know what I mean? Like if you've been in a long-term relationship, just living with somebody, you're in syncing with them energetically. And so our minds really, it leads to, when you look at remote viewing, the science of it, where our subconscious is really communicating in the ionosphere, is really the leading theory that's the remote viewing research put forward. It would lend that we are all kind of like one being on our subconscious level. So we're all. That question came up. I missed that. Some guy was remote viewing. Could you put that up again?
And I was going to make a comment of that and say, when you remote view, you have to be careful, because just because you can do it, everybody else can do it too. And sometimes they have people that will know you're there. So you got to be very careful where you remote view to. And Susie will tell you about that, because she's done that, and people have said somebody's here, and she's like, oops. So yeah, you got to be very careful with that.
I do that a lot.
And they also say that it's best if you're remote viewing an object, that's one thing. But if you're going to remote view somebody else, you need to have their permission. Because like I've often said a lot of times, Tommy remote views. I said, you ever catch me when I'm getting in the shower, you're going to want to rip your eyeballs out. So you just better be careful.
It's a little freaky.
Yeah, right.
It's a little freaky. Like there's been times when I made my office. One time I used to have an office back in Michigan, and I made my I forget what it was. The computer. One of the items in my office, I was the target, and they started describing the office and things happening in the office. Freaking, nothing bad happened. Like nothing weird happened, right? Like. But I'm saying,
why are you running around naked in your office?
And I was like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like they could be getting what's going to happening in the future. I was like, oh wow, it was creepy. It was creepy because they were. When you're remote viewing a person, though, you got to understand that we're all remote view each other anyway. There are no lies at all. We all access the data. When you're dreaming and you're traveling, you have access to everything that ever happened everywhere anyway. So the permission part of it is already given. True. There are no lies between us. So we think we're lying to each other, but in the dream state, there are no lies. In the spirit world, somebody calls it spirit. So I'm just using it for the term. And you know what I mean? The subspace mind, the ether, outside of time space, the array. Whatever you want to call it, there is a membrane at the Planck distance that we access information outside of time space, and we can bring it back with us. And so that's the reality of science. There's a science about it. In that state of mind, when you access that information, you access literally everything. So there's no lying. So permission is kind of already given. So you know what I
that's
mean. And the other thing is, remote viewing is like a periscope looking into that. I'm sorry, Susie. I keep cutting you off. You want to say something?
No, you're fine. Go ahead,
Oh,
Susie.
I was just gonna say that, well, when I was little, I was always dreaming about my mom's paintings before she got them, and I tell her, and then, I always remote view things. I also astral travel. I see things. It's just like I know things. I had God talk to me, tell me stuff, and so it's just been. I've been more spiritual than I think I've been physical in that sense, like I'm more connected to the spiritual than I am anything. And one of the things that I do a lot of is in my dreams, I go and I try to help people and I try to rescue people and I try to get them out of trouble. And one of the things I find myself doing is I'm actually in the dream, I go into their body, I see what they see, and I try to be that little angel on the shoulder saying, do this or don't do that, and guide them. Some of them listen to me, and then I help them. The ones that don't, it ends up, they get in trouble and something. But I've tried, but so I spend a lot of my time in my dreams trying to help people in the astral plane,
So, if you're familiar with the Gateway document, it was kind of famous on TikTok and on Instagram. There was a lot of videos about the Gateway document from the CIA. And if you read that, it's like 30 or 40 pages, and a few of the pages directed on government research on actually how to do that purposely, on how to heal people and affect them in an astral well. Like they did experiment. They had science about it. They had nuclear physicists and
Okay.
particle physicists that did the science of it, and they have protocols on how to heal people. And in fact, the reason they classified it all when they shut it all down is because they discovered how to kill people during that. So that was they put that
Oh,
away. They discovered how to hurt people at a distance, and that's when they canceled the project and it went completely black. So it was anecdotal
oh,
until they discovered how to weaponize it. But the Gateway document is a free PDF. You can look up the CIA Gateway document, and it's 30 or 40 pages. I've got a
okay.
copy of it. But if you read that, it's very enlightening for what you're talking about doing. It's the science and the protocols that they have. There are many things, many versions they used. Julie's right.
You'll
You
have
can
to
see
look
the
into
past.
that. Yeah.
So you can see when you access the
Mm-hmm.
array, you can see outside of time space. No distance, and the future and the past are all accessible at once. That's what I mean. You can see literally everything. Also, when you create targets, they stay there forever. So you have to be creative in
So
your
when
target.
you say that okay, Tony, you were saying like in that Gateway program, they were trying to help heal people. Is that
So
right? And
well they developed what is called psychoenergetics, and that's in my book as well. I think I have it here somewhere.
Yeah, I need to get that. I was going to
The
ask you
hidden
about
history of remote viewing and psychoenergetics. So there in the back, there's a guide on how to do remote viewing, the basics on the first stage. I think stage 4 of the protocol. There's this page. But so remote viewing is viewing a target. So when I want to view the
okay.
Eiffel Tower, I give a blind target to a remote viewer. They get an envelope with a number on it. They do the protocol, and they describe aspects, and it comes out with looks like the Eiffel Tower, or aspect. They describe the Eiffel Tower. You go, wow, the odds of that happening week in and week out, when the target could be an amoeba, it could be a planet, it could be the moon, it could be a lunch somewhere, it could be a restaurant or a statue, and they describe the Eiffel Tower. The odds of that are very slim. And so when you really sufficiently randomize the target, the odds of them getting any aspects of it, let alone 7 aspects, which is the 15 score, is very slim. It's 1 in 250,000 to get 7 aspects of the target correct.
Wow.
We do it all the time. We do it every single week. Every single week we do this. So it's real.
Huh.
What they did was, go ahead.
Do you do that where it's live and people watch what you guys are doing, or is it just a
Yes.
group of you that are doing it? Oh, really? Oh,
So we put the target out. And then they do their session, and then we meet in a Zoom call, and they email me their results. They draw it all out we have a standardized form. You have to have a standardized form, and then in a screen share, I show the entire group, every person's standardized form and their results. And they come down and go, and then I say, tell me what you saw here. Tell me what's going on. We go through everybody in the group. And then at the end, I reveal the target. And we look it up on the internet. And we look at it. And everybody's jaws drops every single time. And I go, it was the Eiffel Tower. So before I get to Julie's question, which is a great question, I want to say this, so the government did remote viewing. And what they discovered was probably after they dealt with us kids, but in many things, they discovered that they could actually influence the target area. So they could make people feel the passage of time slower or faster. They could make people feel sluggish when they walked in the target area. They make people feel sluggish. They could change the temperature of the target area. They could make it hot or cold. They could actually do telekinesis, and actually there's paperwork. And I know it's hard to believe, but the government had paperwork and theoretical that it was possible to teleport objects through a remote viewing protocol, through psychoenergetic protocols, to teleport objects from the target to them and back. And so they were doing teleportation at this point. So that's what psychoenergetics is interact. Well, if you know who Jean-Charles Moyen is, he's somebody that was studied. Dan Winter and Chris Sassone are scientists, and they ran brainwave studies of him during what he did for teleport. They had conclusive evidence that he was a very unique brain, the highest level of gamma brainwaves of anybody they ever tested. But it's a different story. That's a different thing altogether. The science is there that supports teleportation, and the paperwork is there from the declassified CIA library.gov about teleportation. But psychoenergetics is interacting with the target. And how they tested this was the group of guys in Fort Meade. They had an Army hospital next door to where their office was. And so the doctors every day would go, the guys that were hospitalized, they would get a report at the end of the day that the doctors would get from the nurses. So if somebody had a broken leg and the swelling would go down, the nurse would make a report. His swelling went down, his temperature is this, boom, 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 take his vitals, and the swelling went down on his leg. And the doctor would get the report. Well, the remote viewing group next door were taking the reports, and they were saying, this bed, this soldier, let's heal him and see what happens. And they did the protocol. And then the next day, they're like, wow, his swelling went away. The doctor would go, it was a remarkable healing. They had proof because the doctor didn't know, the patient didn't know, and the nurse didn't know. Nobody knew, but they had proof. So they said, okay, let's try to hurt him and make the swelling worse. And they induced swelling. So there's paperwork that this is all declassified. And then what they found was that they could induce heart attack. And then, boom, the whole thing got shut down. That was literally at that point. And parts of the document, from the Gateway document, you can take phrases from the Gateway document and put those in the declassified library.org or the Freedom of Information Act search engine, and you'll find those documents that describe exactly what I'm talking about. So, man, I feel like I gave birth. I'm sitting over here going,
I know, right? So Julie had that one question about the seats. Are there seats?
Yes. Yeah, let's go back.
She had another one I haven't put up yet.
She had a couple. Those are really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we throw those up?
And then she had this. Oh, you want the other one first?
Never formally trained. I just started out in a remote healing session. So just the intention is everything, right? So you know this. I'm sure that you guys all know this, that whatever you set out to do, the intention is everything. So if you intend for somebody to be healed and you just meditate and hold that mantra, like, I want you to be healed. I want you to be Bree, I want you to live in health. Bree, I want you to be healed. I want you to feel good tomorrow. And you can do that for 20, 30 minutes. It'll happen. So
all right, y'all. I want you to say, Bree, I want your leg.
Go down. Yeah, all right, give it to me. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
grow my leg back. Grow my leg back.
That's following up on what she said, just energy intention. So anything beyond that in the remote viewing protocols and the psychoenergetic protocols are using practices and peripherals to optimize that happen. So what I'm saying is that happens anyway. Prayer works. When you pray, it's exactly what you're doing. It's the same science. It's the same as your sight or your hearing. It's the same thing, only you naturally have an interaction outside of time space, outside of the array, the subspace mind, the array, the whatever you want to call it, the ether. we're in time, space, time happens, molecules to spin. When you get to the Planck distance, the outside of it, there's a membrane, and on the outside of it, there's no time or space, and that's where everything magic happens. So everybody accesses that naturally. When you pray for somebody, you are doing the same thing. You are accessing it, and the universe is trying to figure out and make the prayer come true. So what the government did was list a set of protocols. They did tests on people. They said, well, what happens if we get rid of, he doesn't have sugar for a month? Is he better at it? Yes or no? Yes, he is. So they had psychics that were extremely gifted at this and asked them what they studied them. And they came up with protocols and peripherals. They found that EMF help matters, your health, certain benefits of your health. There are things they could give you that could stimulate with magnetic fields. They could put Faraday fabric. There were chemicals that they give people. There are many things that they could do that did this. And it's a muscle. So they had soldiers that did this full time, 8 hours a day of these protocols. So they got very good at it. So somebody that's done thousands of remote viewings, if Jessica Jones is watching or anybody else is watching, they know this. Somebody that's done 1,000 remote views doesn't need to even use the protocols anymore. So they can just go, okay, that's what I see. It's this, boom. And they've got because they've done it, because they've worked the muscle out so much. For people that don't, so then we have the protocol that kind of steps you through. You're just getting bits of information. We're not drawing a photorealistic picture of the target. We're not even drawing a picture of the target a lot of time. We're describing aspects of the target. I see something small. I see it in a box. It's round. It's blue. And you pull it out and it's a little ball. So they just said anything could be blue. Anything can be small and round. There's a lot of things it could be, but they're getting aspects of it. And that's the beginnings of remote viewing. And when you get to that expert level, you start drawing the box and drawing the ball and saying, I get a ball and it says Nike on it. You start to get more details.
Yeah, I had to laugh at her. She had a show one time, and she said she went to go remote view the sun. She had a knock on the door that told her to stop doing that. And I had to giggle because I was like, what are you doing up there? But yeah, Julie's got some questions today.
Energetic targets tend to stand out more than others. So are there seals concerning past energetic events or locations or both from remote viewers from seeing things? No. There are techniques to block remote viewing. There are countermeasures to remote viewing, but there's not a seal. So there are methods that ETs use, so you can understand that extraterrestrials are very good at remote viewing, and that when you're flying a spaceship through space and another spaceship is off in the distance, you would think that they would remote view and see if it's hostile, right? So there are ways to do that. So there are countermeasures for those ships to stop other remote viewers from seeing them, from confusing them. But as far as just an outright seal where you can't see it from the past, I don't believe so. At least I haven't discovered anything like that.
Right. Wow. Hi, Tommy. Dr. Don.
Hey, Tommy.
Hello.
Tony,
You have anything you want to say, Tommy?
Lots of stuff, but I'm not going to right now. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, it's funny. The first time I ever remote viewed knowingly as an adult, it was the Eiffel Tower, and then I drew it. I drew the picture that came up when you put those coordinates in. Yeah, and the whole swelling thing after I fractured my skull. Fractured my skull down a skateboard accident in 2003 while I was in the hospital. The neurologist told me I'd probably be there for 3 weeks, and I visualized myself healing and bringing the swelling down. The next day, he said it was miraculous, and he didn't use the term miracle, but he said miraculous, and had 3 weeks worth of swelling dissipate. I was able to leave that day.
Yep.
Hey,
yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you what Tommy did for me. I dropped my cell phone laying down in bed playing on my phone. I dropped the corner of it, and it was heavy, right into my eyeball. And I did damage to my eyeball. They literally wanted to go in and pull the fluid and the blood and everything out of it and put artificial stuff in it. And I was like, no, that's a little close to my brain to be putting artificial stuff. I can't let you do that. So Tommy taught me how to breathe and think about it. And my eye is better without them doing that. Now, I'm still going blind because, I'm just going blind. I'm a diabetic and, hey, my eyes are just not good. I'm waiting for the seeing eye doctor to tell me that I have a seeing eye dog that I can get cheap because, I need something. But yeah, so it worked a lot better than I was really leery. It's bad enough I have to take insulin and I don't trust it, but I don't have a choice. And it really bothers me. So I don't take any vaccinations. They're telling me you need your flu shot. You need your pneumonia shot. No, I don't. I have one. It's called an immune system. I tried really hard to get COVID. Couldn't get it. Couldn't get it. Couldn't get it to save my life. I was around everybody that had it. Couldn't get it. So I trust my immune system more than I trust, injections. So, but yeah, Tommy taught me that, and I used it every day, every single day, sometimes twice a day, and it worked. I was like, whoo! So yeah.
Yeah, the more frequently you do it, it reinforces the quantum reaction or quantum field to draw those positive outcomes into you. I don't know the words or the terminology. I inadvertently did it when I was in college. A friend had cancer.
There's a few things. So there's actually a few people that do really different and more advanced healing things and heal big things, but there's ways to do it. And the other thing we found is that when you're changing something, like if you're doing this in a meditative state, you're doing an energetic change. If it's a great change and you do it quickly, it seems to be there's a like a backlash, energetic backlash from it. So I explain it like this to the people that I teach it to, is that it's like moving a hand through water, the universe being the water, and you're trying to move and get something done. If you do it quickly, there's a chasm behind your hand. There's an empty space behind your hand or the water, and the water quickly fills in and splashes, and it's a mess. And so if you do it quickly, say, I'm going to use an extreme example. Like, I want $1 million, right? And you do the energetic version of that, and you say, I need $1 million today. And the universe freaks out and goes, okay, we'll try, and
Right.
it'll do that. But then you'll get heart problems, you'll get a car crash, you'll get all these things that happen. The universe, the water behind it splashes. The same with healing. So when you do a healing or that, but if you do it slowly over a period of time, it's like moving your hand through the water slowly. There's no ripple behind it. The universe lets it happen. So you say, I want it over the next year. I want to feel better. I want my swelling to go down, but I want a little bit a day for the next year, and I want to be solidly healthy. I want to be healthy. And you do it every day for a year, the universe can compensate without some kind of backlash or without, you know what I'm saying? Because if you do a healing once, we do it with a group of people synchronized at the same time, we get better results. It's less water getting splashed because it's a bunch of hands. Yeah. And so, but what happens is when you let up and don't keep doing it every day, it can come back in a month, whatever you changed. And so so it's better to have a group do it at once and start it, and then somebody do it every day for a long time. And that's how you can manifest some big changes, especially when you're talking about diabetes or something that's persistent. A persistent problem needs a persistent cure, or persistent treatment, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes me think of patience is a virtue.
Right.
Being patient and waiting on the universe to bring it to you is a virtue, because you don't get in a hurry. You just wait and let things flow natural.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't do it real fast. I did it over weeks and weeks.
Right.
Because it's been a while since I did that.
And if you hold the same intention every night before bed and just kind of do it in a mantra, the same exact intention for yourself, over time it'll happen. The universe will try to get it done. The thing is so that goes back to the science of our subconscious minds communicating in the ionosphere. It sounds kooky, but I read this is a CIA document. This isn't me. That your subconscious mind gives off wavelengths, and they get trapped in the ionosphere, and everybody's minds is up there. So we all communicate on a subconscious level while we're sleeping. So in that place, you're asking for future events. You're getting permission. You're meeting people and things that are going to be relevant for you. They send wavelengths back from the future. Information travels back from the future, and that's where that communication happens. You get permission for people you're going to meet in the future, or you don't give it and say, no, when it's not going to happen. Your subconscious mind does a lot of work while you're asleep. And so setting your intention before you go to sleep steers that effort. And if you have a bunch of people saying, so if we all here said, I want a bicycle. I said this earlier in a different one. So I want a bicycle, and I want to set my intention that, because I can't afford one right now. So I'm going to set my intention. I'm going to meditate every night that I want a bicycle. Well, in that realm, other people want bicycles too. And I'm just one, so it's a zero sum. So the universe wants it to happen. There's only so many bicycles.
Right.
Now, if you all say we want Tony to have a bicycle, and we do it every night, in that realm, the other people that want bicycles singularly hear a group saying we need a bicycle in this direction, and it takes precedence, and it happens quicker. The healing works like that too. You know what I mean? The attentive meditation works like that as well. So, and I say it like this: like in that realm, it's a symphony, but when a bunch of people have the same intention, it's like a drum solo. Every symphony stops, and everybody plays the drums for a minute, and that intention gets moved to the front of the nearby time. So that's the way I kind of describe that phenomenon, but it works. I mean, I can go on and on. We've been doing it for like 4 years now, and it works.
Oh.
We have huge results.
So Tony, do you need a bicycle?
I think there's a. That's
Do you
funny.
need one?
Maybe a motorcycle.
Oh,
Right?
me? No. I'm just trying to use metaphor to make it understandable, because
I
it's true. If it's a complicated thing, and if you can tell somebody they don't understand you, they do the wrong thing. It's dangerous, right? So I just try to put it like that, so that because there's real science behind it. Like when I researched my book Beyond Sight, like I'm not lying. I read hundreds and hundreds of documents, just looking for evidence of what I had went through, and I picked up a lot of stuff along the way. But this is stuff they were researching back in the 70s and 80s. And the government uses this. The black government uses this stuff already. And when you see eyes, so that was the other thing that came up. We were talking about people watching you, other remote viewers watching.
Right.
When you see eyeballs, there are other remote viewers. So in my group that I do, in my groups, we don't target military bases or alien bases on the moon, we don't do these targets, so that we don't. That's a form of protection too. Like, not poking bear. We do mundane, the Statue of Liberty, the Niagara Falls, my coffee cup. I'll set a little coffee cup out in the yard. We'll do my coffee cup. Things like that. Mundane targets that are not going to garner the attention of anybody else on the level of remote viewing. For one, for two, there are protections that you can do. There are a lot of methods you can do to protect yourself, and I give people the choice. We've had missing persons that came up.
Oh yeah,
that's what I would like to do.
Well, we've done those, and they're very disheartening. So you know what I mean. You're going to see things that you might not want to see, and so I put a number scale so people can kind of see if it's a rated PG, rated R kind of target, so that they can opt out, because some people want to protect themselves energetically, and some people are kind of don't care. So, but it's something that you have to have the choice to do.
But you have to have a stomach for that too, because it can be pretty bad.
Oh, come on! You're talking to somebody that when I had surgeries done on my leg and they had to open it up, I was taking my cell phone trying to take pictures of my bone inside my leg, going, "That's so cool." So
well, I mean, that's one thing that. When you talk about somebody being abducted and going through that, when we did remote view one, and I'm telling you, when the data came in, it was very difficult to process.
I think especially if they're children, well.
So that's like a whole other level of it, of the remote viewing thing. And unfortunately, things worked out okay, but we were accurate. So the remote viewers were accurate, and the people they kind of need them in the blink of an eye. Like when notes come in, they need them right now, and it's very hard to kind of get everybody up out of bed, do it. So
Yeah.
it takes time to respond
True.
and do a remote. Was difficult. And to Julia, no, thank you. I'll pass on that. We do a bunch of targets a week, and I do a live one. So we did it in front of a live audience and had the entire audience do a remote viewing, and I did it on stage in front of 200 people. Journey to Truth this year, excuse me, and Journey to Truth in Grafton, and we did a remote viewing and handed everybody in the audience pen and paper and gave them a brief instruction. A lot of people didn't get it. They just didn't. They were getting similar things, but a lot of people did get the targets, and I did good. I did a remote viewing on stage, and I got the target. I got a pretty good score. Live on camera, people from the group that I do were watching on video. I was so nervous. That was the scariest thing I ever did because, you know what I mean? You still want to go up there and look like a fool, but I did get the target right. And like I said, it just demonstrated that it's possible. The biggest thing I want to drive home is that this is a natural phenomenon that we all have. So we all have the sixth sense, and a lot of us don't feel like we can access it, but you really can if you just train it. If you do the aerobics, you can get in shape, and that's all it is. And so by practicing it, that's the big thing that I think about it.
You're saying a natural, and biblically speaking, they reference these 9 spiritual gifts, and one of them is the gift of knowing.
Right, because you have the ability in certain brain waves that can compress or have charge collapse down to the Planck, which can exit time space, and you access all of the information from the past and the future and far away. So you can access that, and there are certain brain waves that train down to that. That when you do the math on brain waves, it's a neutral brain wave. So when you're thinking of nothing, when you're absolutely neutral, that brain wave divides down to the Planck size exactly, and the bliss wave. So when you're happy, when you have new shoes, when you're in a great mood, so that brain wave also divides down. So the hate and being mad, anger doesn't. If you're in an angry mood, you're not going to remote view. You literally cannot access the data if you're angry. So so that's the science behind that is sound. They knew this.
Wow. So we got about 10 or 11 minutes left. Tommy, sorry. Wow, I almost choked on my own tongue. Tommy, was there anything that you wanted to add or ask? And when we're done, I have some stuff I need to talk to you about. But do you have anything you want to add?
I think that's like the Black Project side of Gateway was that, but for kids, developing those skills and trying to enhance them through certain techniques that like SRA.
Yeah.
And that I was part of that as a kid, and so the it's wild. Like having terminology to put to it is helpful, or like vernacular. I just call it quantum projection, and like manifesting things, and the precognition or the knowing part of it. Like a couple different missing persons cases where I got flashes of where they were, and there was a murder of a young girl that was Virginia Tech student that went to UVA to a Metallica concert and disappeared. And the president of our board of directors for the nonprofit that I ran for mental health awareness, he was friends with the girl's parents, and we went to Charlottesville looking for her, and we took a left, and they found her if you had taken a right on a farm across the highway from where we were looking. We didn't find her. I mean, it was pretty gruesome from what I understand. She was a serial killer. That was a taxi driver from Charlottesville, and they caught him after the second murder of a UVA student that he But yeah, the first girl's parents started Save the Next Girl, which is it's an advocacy for helping young ladies stay safe in the world. But as far as questions, I need to get back and watch the beginning part. I was engaged in conversation with my child's mom.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about, the things that you sent me. I didn't quite understand them.
Oh, she made a comment about something that was in my hand when we were talking on the phone. There was no video linked to it, and then I found a crash log that happened about the same time. That is an exploit, an iPhone exploit for Snapchat, using developer apps as a way to create overlays that people can switch on and off to control and exploit the phone.
Yeah. Okay.
Scary stuff. Phone hacking is very prevalent.
Well, I probably still do, but I had Pegasus spyware on one of my phones last year. Yeah, they keep track of it.
Tony, so would you like to tell everybody where they could find you and where they can find your book and all that stuff?
The books are on Amazon. You can look at Tony Rodriguez, but TonyRodriguez.com, like in my name tag right there, just that links to everything. You can email me, or it goes to my Patreon, is where I teach those groups. So if you were going to join the remote view, it's the Alpha group is the beginning of it. And that's all on Patreon. It's like a monthly thing. And, within 6 months to a year, it's like you can get to that expert level of we do 2 targets a week, so you get plenty of practice. And I'm working on other products that I do binaurals. There's a hypno track with binaurals and subliminals that I make available to the remote viewing group. And it's effective. It works. This is stuff that I had. And I'm not reinventing the wheel. It's stuff that already exists. And I paid and licensed it and made my own. And so that's available to the people. But the books and everything you can link straight to. I'm having a conference. I'm having people from Farsight. Aziz Brown and Yemi Janae from Farsight. They're going to be guests. Other people, Lily Nova, who is a very gifted, she leads meditations and does group meditations. She's gifted at that. And then Jackie Kenner, my editor and co-author, is going to go there and talk about other energetic things. Rion Derowen, I always have a time with, is really good about the protection. We're going to talk about astral. He's going to present on how to protect yourself, doing this stuff astrally. And, for your hygiene, your energetic hygiene when you do these things. And so it's a 1.5-day conference here in Sedona, Arizona in October 18th and 19th. And it's a conference I'm holding. So for that, and it's based around meditation and remote viewing, because meditation is the linchpin for all of it. So you need to learn how to meditate before you can do anything. And that's really the gateway to all of it. And so people that are very good, very adept at it are going to be teaching talking on meditation and techniques, and then people in the remote viewing world are going to be there talking about some. Aziz is going to present some really good stuff, how they do financial forecasting for Farsight, which has been very successful in the past, and kind of show those techniques in remote viewing. And I'll be talking about some of the CRV and just how I met those people and how it all came together. And it's a really good, like a blitz of a conference, and it's beautiful Sedona. It's a great place. If anybody's nearby, come on October 18th and 19th, and the link to that is on TonyRodriguez.com as well. There's OdysseySedona.com.
I used to live in Arizona. I used to say when I was going to retire, I wanted to go back. I lived in a little place called Bullhead City, Arizona, across from Laughlin, Nevada. I really liked it. I lived on the Colorado River, so it was nice. And Tommy, do you want to tell people where they can find you? And I have your Cash App to help for the cause.
keep those cards and letters coming in, folks. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Touchdown Tommy Edwards, and on YouTube under Tommy Edwards 7062, and then I got Rumble. My Rumble channel is Dreamcatcher 33. And let's see, You find me on.
Don't forget your OnlyFans page.
Beyond the Box. Oh yeah, the OnlyFans. That's touchdown. Also touchdown Tommy Edwards. Don't get too excited. It's just pictures of fans.
I'm told you I'm going to start one of those for my dog. I'm going to dress him up in different outfits.
Yeah. I did a bathroom exhaust fan that I was replacing the other day. Ooh, so provocative.
Right?
Yeah.
And Andy, of course, on Facebook, right, Andy?
Yep.
And here and there and everywhere, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you can catch Susie and I here every Friday and Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. And I'm thinking about adding a couple more shows during the week, and we're trying to sit and work that out. So I know I did one in the middle of the night last night and got a lot of results out of it. It just kind of popped up. In my pajamas, no makeup, no nothing. So, but
it popped up in my DMs this morning.
You what?
Popped up in my DMs this morning.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was like, woo. But I want to thank everybody for coming. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Tony, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We enjoy you, and I'm gonna look up on that Patreon and watch what you guys do, and and I'm gonna pick that book up too. That's my next agenda. I've already got all the Bibles I need. That'll be the next agenda. So yes, it works out.
Great information. Thank you, Tony.
Yes.
I'd love to share some more. Tony, ask some questions about a few things at some point. But
sure.
Just experiences and things that happen.
Yeah, you can contact me. They have my contact info. Please reach out to me. I'll be happy. So I leave Monday for Denver. I'll be speaking at the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection Conference in Westminster, Colorado, near Denver. And so I'm leaving Monday. I'll be gone Monday to Monday for that. It's a big conference, and I'm speaking there. And then when I get back in October, on towards the end of October. But after I get back, I'll be catching up with all my emails and things. And like I said, she can give you my contact info. Please reach out. I'd love to talk. And Julia Ann, I believe I was saying it right. Julia, that was in the chat. Please reach out to me. I'd love to help if I can. So, I don't want to promise more than I can give. I'm pretty stretched thin most of the time. But the idea is that we all help.
Yeah. Julie says she was thinking about moving there. Arizona is actually a good place. You just got to learn one thing. In the dead of summer, it gets to be 120 degrees. So you do everything at night, or make sure you're in air conditioning during the day. As long as you live by those rules, you're good to go.
Or just go somewhere cooler for those months if you could do it, right?
Oh God, be a snowbird. Here's my thought. Remote viewing would be a good way for me to take a vacation. I could go see Niagara Falls. I could go see, it wouldn't cost me anything. So yeah, and I wouldn't have to worry about traveling. Traveling's so hard on me nowadays. And I used to love it. My daughter and I would get in the car and just pick a place to go, and we would just drive all night. It didn't matter. We just went somewhere to go visit somebody. And I can't do that anymore. And boy, I'll tell you what, I sure do miss it. It kills me to drive to Susie's 5 hours. I get there and I'm like, oh my God, my back, my hips. Oh, jeez. So yeah, that would be nice. I'm going to come remote view and ride a horse, Susie. Okay. I think that'll be a good thing. But we're going to go now. Tomorrow night, we have Daniel Holmes with us. She runs, she advocates for the foster care, parents who are against the trafficking. So it'll be interesting. Julia, Bullhead City. Yeah, it's not as small as it used to be, I hear. I've been gone from there for 24, 25 years now. So I heard it grew. It was real small when I lived there. The only thing we had to do was sit on the porch and rate the bug zapper from 1 to 10 when the bugs hit it. So, that's all there was out there. There was nothing. So, but anyways, guys,
That-
we're going to get out of here so we can let Tony get out of here. And thank you again, Tony, for coming. And
for
everybody, yeah, we have fun when you're here. We get a lot of good information. We love having you here.
Right. I have a lot of stuff to look into now, Tony.
Right? So like I always say, everybody, please be kind to one another. Have a good night and be safe.
Goodbye for now, from Beyond the Box.
Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs from our extraordinary guests.
Good night, Putin. Good night, Tucker.